Welcome. Some stories are best left untold, but not tonight. These are 3 terrifying true school lockdown stories. Keep the lights on. Let's begin. I never really thought much about school lockdown drills. We had them every year. Lights off, doors locked, hide in the corner, stay silent. It was just another routine until the day it wasn't. It started in 4th period, English class. The principal's voice crackled through the intercom, but something was off. His voice was shaky, uncertain. "Attention all students and staff, we are now in a lockdown. This is not a drill." A weird silence filled the room. Normally the teacher would reassure us, say it's just a precaution, but instead she just froze, staring at the door like she expected it to burst open at any second. Then she ran to lock it. That's when I knew something was wrong. We shuffled into the corner, our desks and chairs pushed aside. The lights flicked off, plunging us into near darkness. The only glow came from the faint blue lights of someone's phone screen. I could hear my own breath, shaky, uneven. For the first few minutes, nothing happened, and then the footsteps started. Slow, heavy, dragging. They echoed down the hallway, a rhythmic thud. Scrap, thud. Scrap, like someone walking with an uneven gait. Everyone in the room stiffened. My teacher pressed a trembling finger to her lips. I could see the sweat on her forehead and the dim glow of the emergency exit sign. Then the footsteps stopped right outside our door. I don't know why, but in that moment I held my breath. And then we heard it. A long, slow scratching against the wood. Scrape! 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 I clenched my fists, pressing them into my knees to stop them from shaking. My best friend Tim was sitting next to me, his eyes wide with terror. The door handle twisted. Once, twice, deliberate testing. My teacher's hand hovered over the emergency call button on her radio. But she didn't press it. She was listening. We all were. And then the voice came. It was low, guttural, and inhuman, like something pretending to be human but failing. "I saw you." Tim let out a muffled gasp. Someone in the back started crying but quickly stifled it in their sleeve. The handle rattled violently. Whatever was outside wanted in. And then bang! Something slammed against the door so hard the entire frame rattled. I bit down on my sleeve to keep from screaming. Silence. We sat there in the dark, listening, waiting for the sound of retreating footsteps, but they never came. It just stopped, dead. Silence. A full 5 minutes passed, then 10, 15. We sat there in pure terror, too afraid to move. Then the intercom crackled back to life. "The lockdown has been lifted. You may now exit the building." No explanation, no false alarm, no reassurance, nothing. We hesitated. No one wanted to be the first to move. Eventually my teacher stood up, hesitated for a moment, then unlocked the door. The hallway was empty. The police arrived shortly after, reviewing security footage. No one had been in the hallways, no forced entry, no records of an intruder, nothing. But as we filed out of the classroom, I glanced at the door, and I swear, no, there were deep, bloody scratches on the handle. There's a classroom in my school that's always locked. No one goes in, no one comes out. The windows are covered in black paper, taped so securely that not even a sliver of light escapes. It's been that way for as long as I can remember. We just call it Room 56. Teachers don't talk about it. Students whisper rumors, someone died in there, it's a storage room for dangerous equipment, it's where they put kids who disappear. But no one knows for sure. One day during a routine lockdown drill, my friend James and I ended up hiding right next to that door. We were in the hallway when the alarm rang. Our teacher didn't make it out in time, so she just shouted for us to duck down and stay quiet. The only cover was the deep recess by Room 56. James smirked as we crouched. "Guess this is finally our chance to see what's inside." I rolled my eyes. "Dude, it's just a storage room." "Then why do they keep it locked? Why are the windows blacked out?" I didn't have an answer. Then, in the silence of the empty hallway, we heard something from inside the room, a soft scratching. James and I froze. It was faint at first, like nails on wood. Then it grew more urgent, like something was trapped. James's eyes widened. He raised his hand and, before I could stop him, knocked. Knock, knock, knock. We held our breath. For a few seconds there was nothing. Then, knock, knock, knock. Something knocked back. My chest tightened. That wasn't possible. The room was supposed to be empty. James's face paled, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear. "Hello," he whispered. Silence. Then from the other side of the door we heard a voice. A small voice. "Help me." A chill ran down my spine. Something about it was wrong. It sounded hollow, like it was coming from far away, but also right next to us. James glanced at me, then before I could stop him, he grabbed the handle and twisted. It moved. It was unlocked. My heart nearly stopped. James started to push the door open. And then the lockdown alarm went off. But this time it wasn't a drill. The automated voice rang through the speakers. "Attention, this is a lockdown. This is not a drill." James ripped his hand away. The handle kept twisting. Something inside that room was still trying to open it. I grabbed James and pulled him away. We ran down the hall, crouching low, hearts pounding. We ducked into a classroom just as the heavy footsteps started echoing through the school. The lockdown lasted 15 minutes. When it ended, the principal himself came to check on us. We told him everything. His face remained completely blank. He didn't ask questions, didn't seem surprised. He just sighed and walked to room 56. Without hesitation, he pulled out an old key, locked the door, and slipped the key back into his pocket. That room has been empty for 20 years. Then he turned and walked away. No one ever spoke about it again, not even him. It started with a note. We were halfway through 5th period when my teacher suddenly stopped mid-lecture. One moment she was explaining something about cell structures, and the next she just froze. Her eyes flickered toward the door. At first I thought she had zoned out or lost her train of thought, but then I saw it. A small slip of paper had just been pushed under the door. No knock, no footsteps, just the note. It was folded in half, slightly crumpled like whoever had written it had been in a hurry. My teacher hesitated. Slowly, she walked toward the door, her heels clicking against the tile. The entire room had gone silent. We all stared as she bent down and picked up the note. She unfolded it, her face drained of color. For a long second, she just stood there, staring. Then, with a sharp breath, she moved. She marched to the door and locked it. Then she flicked off the lights, casting the room into an eerie twilight. The only illumination came from the pale gray light seeping through the windows. "Everyone to the back, now!" Her voice was low, urgent. We hesitated. This wasn't a drill. The lockdown alarm hadn't gone off. Something was wrong. But the look in her eyes told us not to ask questions. Chairs scraped against the floor as we hurried to the back of the room, pressing ourselves against the wall beneath the windows. Some kids ducked under desks. Others held their breath, trying to stay as still as possible. I looked at my friend Mark. His brows were furrowed. He mouthed, "What the hell is happening?" I had no answer. Then, as if on cue, the PA system crackled. "Attention all students and staff, we are now in a lockdown. This is not a drill." My stomach dropped. A few people let out small gasps. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." We had done lockdown drills before. Hide, stay quiet, don't open the door for anyone. But this was real. And yet, my teacher had already known. She had locked the door before the announcement. She was still gripping the note in her hands. Her knuckles were turning white. And then, the footsteps started. slow, dragging, uneven. They echoed down the hall. Each step scraped against the tile like someone was shuffling forward with effort, getting closer. My heart pounded. The footsteps stopped, right outside of our door. A shadow passed under the gap. Someone was standing there. I could feel it. The air in the room grew stifling. My skin prickled with a feeling I can only describe as wrong. The handle twisted, softly at first, then harder, rattling, shaking violently. Someone, or something, was trying to get in. And then, out of a whisper, "I know you're in there." It was deep, breathless, wrong, not a normal voice. It almost sounded like it was too close. Like it wasn't coming from outside the door, but from everywhere at once. A slow, wheezing chuckle followed. I felt Mark shudder beside me. My teacher pressed a finger to her lips, her eyes wide with fear. The thing outside let out a slow, shuddering exhale. The handle stopped moving. For a few agonizing seconds, there was nothing. Then, the footsteps started again, fading away, dragging, scraping, disappearing down the hallway. We sat in suffocating silence, every second stretching into eternity. 5 minutes later, the PA system crackled again. "The lockdown is now over, teachers. Please resume your lessons." The relief was instant. A few people let out shaky breaths. Someone laughed nervously, but our teacher didn't move. Her hands were still trembling. The note slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the floor. Mark picked it up. He frowned as he read it. The message was scrawled in frantic, messy handwriting. "Do not make a sound." It was signed by the janitor. The weirdest part? Our school didn't have one.
If you want many more scary and interesting stories that have ever happened, then subscribe to the channel to always be aware of the release of new stories. And don't forget to like the video and write your opinion about the video below.